nagsimula.
Oo nga.
Iba't ibang paniniwala.
Dami kasi.
May basihan ba o wala?
I wonder.
Bigyan ng linaw. Hanapan ng sagot. Alamin ang totoo. Ituwid ang baluktot. I wonder. I wonder. Mga tanong ni Juan, bigyan ng kasagutan. I wonder. I wonder. Mga tanong ni Juan, bigyan ng kasagutan. I wonder.
We may be ignorant of its importance and presence, but amortization is actually a very important part of our society. From home loans, auto loans, and personal loans, amortization takes part in each in order to help people gain things that are hard to pay in one go. Before we uncover what amortization really is, let's have a little fun fact. Just like any word, amortization derives from an origin. Its base word, which is amortize, derives via Middle English amortisen, Anglo-French amortisser, and Vulgar Latin amortir, which all means to kill. How does that relate with our topic? In present era, when we say amortization, in a sense, it also means you gradually kill the loan. Let us now elaborate. What really is amortization? Amortization is used in many contexts. However, when used in finance, it is defined as the gradual repayment of a loan through the use of periodic payments. Not all the people have the necessary means to pay for something so expensive in one go, and that is why amortization steps in. It spreads out the payment in time in order to make it bearable for the one getting the loan. To further understand amortization table comes to light. Amortization table refers to a schedule that lists each periodic loan payment. It lists down how much will go to the payment of interest and the principal. Each amortization table contains the same kind of information. These are scheduled payments, the required periodic payment. It is the total of the principal and interest expenses. Next, we have the principal repayment, a part of the scheduled payment that goes into paying off your original debt. Then lastly, we have the interest expense, a portion of scheduled payment that goes towards interest. It shows how much interest you will pay in every periodic payment. Now that we have explained amortization and amortization table, does it actually have benefits? The answer is yes. First off, people are able to afford things without really exhausting their funds in one go. Second, with the amortization table, people are given the chance to evaluate different loan options. They can compare lenders and choose what is more affordable and money-friendly loan for them. These are all the benefits that we can have with amortization. Proceeding, let us further break down amortization. There are components that are needed in amortization table. These components are computed through the use of formulas and certain variables. What are these variables and formulas? Let's find out. We have many variables, and these are all of them when listed down. First, we have the variable A, which represents the present value of our loan. We also have the variable S, which refers to the final amount. Following right after is our variable r, which symbolizes the periodic payment. We also have the small variable r, which refers to the original interest rate. After that, there is also the variable n, which is the number of payments. The variable m is also present, and it refers to the time between two successive payments, or how the loan is compounded. We also have the variable I, and this is our interest rate divided by how it's compounded. Lastly, we have the variable t, which refers to the time from the beginning of the first payment until the last one. Since we have discussed the variables, now we will proceed and tackle the formulas. With our variable a, the formula will be a equals to the r multiplied to the bracket of 1 minus parenthesis of 1 plus I raised to negative n divided by I. Then, for our variable r, we will have the formula r equals to a multiplied to the variable I over 1 minus parenthesis of 1 plus I raised to negative n. In solving for n, we have the formula n equals mt, or variable m multiplied to variable t. For solving the variable I, we have the formula I equals to r divided by m, or the variable r divided by our variable m. In solving for the interest expenses, all you have to do is to multiply the variable a to our variable I. In finding for the repayment of principal, what we need to do will be subtracting our interest expenses to our periodic payment. So after computing the interest expenses, all you have to do to get the repayment of principal is to subtract it to our periodic payment, or our variable a. Let us test our knowledge by answering this example. A debt for the purchase of household furniture will be discharged, principal and interest included, at 12% payable monthly payments of 4,200 pesos at the end of each month for 2 years. A. We need to find the original debt. B. We also need to find the principal that is remaining unpaid after the fifth monthly payment. And lastly, C. We need to find how much of the fifth payment or the fifth monthly payment will be allotted to the interest, and how much is also paid for the payment of principal. The first thing to do here would be identifying the givens shown in the statement. We have the variable big letter R, or the periodic payment, which is equivalent to 4,200 pesos. We also have the variable M, which is represented as 12. The variable R, or the small letter r, which is 12% or 0.12. The variable I, which is 0.01 derived from I, equals to r divided by m, or 0.12 divided by 12. And lastly, the variable n, which is equals to 24, derived from n equals mt, or n equals 12 times 2. These are all the variables, or these are all the given that we have in this statement. We will now proceed to answering or solving what we need to find. First off, we have to solve for A. In the given problem, we first need to find for the original debt. The formula we're going to use will be the formula for finding variable A, since it is what we need to find. Recalling back to our previous formula, we just need to substitute the values. We will now have A equals to 4,200 multiplied to the bracket 1 minus parenthesis 1 plus 0.01 raised to negative 24 divided by 0.01. This will result to 89,222.23. This is the value for our A. Next, we need to compute the unpaid principal after the fee payment. We will also use the formula for A, as it is also what we need to find. Substituting once again, we will have A sub 5 equals to 4,200 multiplied to the bracket 1 minus parenthesis 0.01 raised to negative 19 over 0.01. The reason why our n will be 19 because we are computing for the unpaid principal after the fee payment, which means our n, which is 24, will be subtracted with 5 in order to get our current value of n. Computing all this, it will give us the result, which is 72,349.24 pesos. This is the unpaid principal after the fee payment. Lastly, we are gonna compute for the interest and principal paid on the fee payment. First off, we need to find our A. This is because it is needed for us to be able to compute our interest. Substituting the values to our previous formula, we will have A sub 5 equals to 4,200 multiplied to the bracket of 1 minus parenthesis 1 plus 0.01 raised to negative 20 divided by 0.01. Our A5 or A sub 5 will be equivalent to 75,791.32 pesos. After that, we have to compute the interest. Interest is A multiplied to I. So we will have 75,791.32 multiplied to 0.01. Our interest will then be equal to 757.91. For our principal expense, we just need to subtract our interest expense to our periodic payment, or the variable R. Substituting, we will have 4,200 minus 757.91. Our principal expense will be 3,442.09. Let us have another example. Mrs. Guno borrowed 125,000 in a multi-purpose loan company. The company stipulated in the contract that the amount is payable quarterly in 2 years at 5% compounded quarterly. How much was her quarterly payment? And now, we also need to construct an amortization table. First, we need to identify the given in the statement. We have the variable A, which is 125,000, variable M, which is equal to 4 as it is compounded quarterly. Then we also have variable R, which is equal to 0.05, variable T, which is 2 years, variable N, which is equal to 8, because N equals MT, and this is 2 multiplied to 4. We also have our I, which will be 1.25% or 0.0125, which was derived from the formula R divided by M, or 0.05 divided by 4. These are all the given in the statement, and we will use all of this to be able to construct our table and to also solve for the components in the table. Almost everything is given except for our R, which is very important in order to solve for our principal repayment. That is why we need to solve for our R, or periodic payment, first. Substituting the values with our given formula before, we will have R is equivalent to 125,000 multiplied to 0.0125 divided by 1 minus parenthesis 1 plus 0.0125 raised to negative 8. This will result to 16,516.64 pesos. That is our periodic payment. Now that we have our R, we will now find our interest. Our interest is computed through multiplying our A, or variable A, with our variable I. Replacing with the values, we will have the interest computed through 125,000 multiplied with 0.0125. This will give us 1,562.5 pesos as our interest. Now that we have our interest, we need to find our principal repayment. It can be computed by subtracting our interest with our periodic payment. Now, we will substitute. We will have 16,516.64 minus 1,562.6. This will result to 14,954.14 and it will be our principal repayment. This finishes our first row or first set of payment. For the next payments, almost the same thing will occur or happen. However, you will have to compute for A as an additional. Let us proceed to the next row. First, we have to solve for our A or A sub 2. This is the present value of our loan in our second payment. Just a reminder, since we are down to our second payment or second set of payment, the value for our N will be 7 instead of 8. This is because as we proceed from one set of payment to another or to the next one, it is always subtracted with 1. Let us proceed and substitute. A sub 2 is equivalent to 16,516.64 multiplied to the bracket 1 minus parenthesis 1 plus 0.0125 raised to negative 7 divided by 0.0125. This will give us 110,045.84 pesos. The same procedure will be done, only the values to be substituting will be changed. So for our interest, in computing, we will use the value for A sub 2 instead for the value of our first A, which is 125,000. However, the value of our I will remain the same. It will still be 0.0125. Now, substituting, we will have 110,045.84 multiplied to 0.0125, which will result to 1,375.57. This is our interest. For our principal repayment, we will subtract the computed interest with our periodic payment. It will be 16,516.64 minus 1,375.57, which will result to 15,141.07. Just like I've said, the process all throughout would be the same. Only the values of our A and N will change as you proceed to the next rows. I believe that I have discussed the basics of amortization. I have tackled about what amortization really is. I also included amortization table and its components. Aside from those, I also discussed about the variables that are important in amortization and the formulas also. These have been a very fun lesson or tutorial. I wish that all the questions about the basics of amortization were answered. Till next time, I wonder.